There's a particular kind of rage that bubbles up when you're standing on your porch, barefoot, cradling a lukewarm coffee, staring at the spot where your Amazon box should be, and it's not there. Again, let me back up. My name's Jordan. I live in a mid-sized suburban sprawl best described as Stepford Wives meets gluten-free kale dystopia. Rent's just low enough to afford, and just high enough to keep you humble. I work remote, graphic design, which means I'm home all day. So I noticed pretty quick when my packages started playing Houdini. At first, I thought maybe it was a delivery issue. Maybe the guy just left it with a neighbor, and that neighbor developed a sudden case of kleptomania. But after package number 4 disappeared, a keyboard, 2 sets of pens, and a book titled How to Not Give a Damn, The Art of Emotional Laziness, ironic in retrospect, I knew it wasn't a coincidence. I checked my doorbell cam. Finally, that's when I saw her. A middle-aged woman in a lemon-yellow tracksuit, as bright and subtle as a traffic cone, sauntered up to my porch like she owned the place. She didn't even check if anyone was watching. She just scooped up the package, gave a little self-satisfied nod like she'd just done the Lord's work, and waddled away with the grace of a smug raccoon. Karen. I didn't know her real name. Nobody did. She lived 2 doors down and made passive aggression her love language. She once reported a neighbor for hostile wind chimes, whatever the hell that means, and printed her own warning signs about unsanctioned plant growth after someone planted wildflowers on a sidewalk strip. She was the HOA's self-appointed enforcer, despite having absolutely no authority or, evidently, shame. You know the type, laminated clipboard, tiny yapping dog named Princess, and a talent for weaponizing community Facebook groups. I decided to confront her. Not with fire. Yet. Just with questions. So I took a stroll past her front lawn, which was as manicured as her temper wasn't, and pretended to be on a casual, non-suspicious walk, the kind that absolutely doesn't end in a petty neighborhood war. Hey, Karen. I waved with the forced cheerfulness of a retail employee mid-shift. Haven't seen any of my packages lately. Weird, right? She didn't even blink. Maybe porch pirates, she said, adjusting her sunglasses despite the overcast sky. So many criminals these days. Totally. Although, weird how the porch pirate's wearing Skechers and a lemon jumpsuit. Her jaw stiffened. The corner of her lip twitched like it wanted to snarl, but settled for tight disapproval. I don't appreciate being accused, she said. I'm a respected member of this neighborhood. Respect is a strong word. Feared is closer. But sure, Karen. The real kicker? 2 days later, I got a letter from the HOA. Dear resident, it has come to our attention that you've been making unsubstantiated accusations against fellow homeowners. Please maintain civility and proper community conduct. I laughed so hard I spilled soup on my laptop. Karen had snitched. The woman steals from my porch. I mention it once, and suddenly I'm the villain? Okay, this was no longer about packages. This was war. But if Karen wanted to turn this into a full-blown suburban saga, she had no idea who she was messing with. I don't mean to brag, but I once got a full refund from Comcast using nothing but sarcasm and a 45-minute chat transcript. I've got patience, pettiness, and a disturbingly creative brain when I'm fueled by spite. So I started planning. No more boring security cams. No more passive-aggressive chats. I needed a message. A statement. Something loud, messy, and so glittery it would haunt her dog's fur for the next 6 years. And that's when it hit me. A glitter bomb. The kind of bomb that makes weddings look like funerals. The kind that turns any white carpet into a Jackson Pollock painting of cosmic vengeance. I started researching. Not just some amateur YouTube crap. I'm talking precision engineering. Battery triggers. Spring-loaded mechanisms. I even DM'd a guy on Reddit named Boomboy92, who makes prank devices for fun. He gave me specs, warnings, encouragement, possibly a few too many emojis. The plan was simple. First of all, package up something convincingly tempting. Secondly, make sure the trap was glitter-rigged and camera-monitored. Thirdly, leave it on the porch like bait. Fourthly, wait, you might think I was overreacting, that maybe this was petty. But hear me out. When someone invades your space, steals from you, and then has the nerve to play victim, The only logical response is tactical pettiness. Besides, I wasn't going to hurt her. Just decorate her soul. And with that thought, I pressed the final piece into the trap, a spring-loaded vial of ultra-fine unicorn glitter mixed with confetti stars, ready to erupt at the slightest tampering. I labeled the box, Premium Organic Essential Oils, Fragile, because nothing says steal me to a suburban Karen quite like overpriced wellness crap. I placed it on the porch and waited. Day 1. The box sat there like a beautiful, beige siren, whispering sweet temptation into the void. I made sure the camera was rolling. I even angled a backup phone cam from inside my window, just in case she decided to channel her inner mission, impossible, and try anything clever. Spoiler, she didn't. At 9:47 a.m., it happened. Karen waddled into frame like the world owed her something. Princess, her demon chihuahua, yipped at the sidewalk as if announcing her mistress's arrival like a medieval trumpet. Karen did her usual perimeter glance. You know, the totally inconspicuous 2-second sweep that says, I definitely steal things, but I want plausible deniability. And then she reached out. I actually held my breath. The second she lifted the box, boom. Not an explosion, not a fireball, but the glitter equivalent of Chernobyl. A cloud of sparkling death erupted from every seam, coating her lemon tracksuit, her overplucked eyebrows, even poor Princess, who let out a yelp so dramatic you'd think I'd personally insulted her bloodline. Karen screamed. Not like, oh no, I'm surprised. No. This was a primal, wounded animal shriek. A full-body exorcism in the key of glitter. She stumbled back, flailing, dropping the box like it had bitten her. It bounced once on the porch before landing, mercifully, upright, spilling only a final puff of rainbow dust like a mic drop. She was covered. It was magnificent. Gold, pink, violet, micro glitter in every wrinkle, every hair follicle, every desperate gasp for dignity. It clung to her skin like it had found its forever home. She started shouting immediately. You vandal. This is a crime. This is chemical warfare. I sipped my coffee, which tasted even better than usual. Morning, Karen. I called through the window, not even trying to hide my grin. Looks like your aura's finally aligned. She spun to face me, her face a Picasso painting of glitter and indignation. You'll be hearing from my lawyer, she shrieked. Hope they accept payment in sparkles. She stormed off, trailing glitter like a busted piñata, Princess vibrating with fury beside her. I don't think I've ever been so proud of myself. But it didn't stop there. Oh no, because Karen doesn't lose. At least, not without trying to drag the entire neighborhood down with her. The next day, I woke up to a fresh HOA violation letter stuck to my door with painter's tape. Classy. Your property has been identified as the source of a public safety incident involving hazardous materials. You are required to attend an emergency HOA meeting this Friday. Hazardous materials. I stared at the letter for a full minute before laughing so hard I had to sit down. Karen had escalated. She wasn't just mad. She was on a full-blown crusade now. She was playing the victim like it was an Olympic sport, and she was gunning for gold. Fine. Two can play this game. I printed out the footage. Every glorious frame. Karen lifting the box. Karen getting baptized by glitter. Karen screaming like she'd seen the IRS in her driveway. I emailed it to the HOA board with the subject line, porch theft footage, you're welcome. No reply. Instead, 2 days later, I got a visit. From him. Gary. Gary is the HOA president. He's about 5 feet 6 inches of mediocre ambition packed into pleated khakis and a Bluetooth headset no one asked for. He speaks exclusively in corporate jargon and treats the community newsletter like it's a Pulitzer contender. He showed up with his clipboard and a face like he'd just smelled burnt toast. Jordan, we've received reports of prank devices being used on neighborhood residents. Prank devices? You mean the glitter? He cleared his throat like I'd asked him to define a safe word. Regardless, we have reason to believe you orchestrated an unsafe situation. She stole my packages. Gary blinked. I have the footage. Want to see her steal? I also have 3 other clips. She's been doing this for weeks. I've filed 0 complaints. She tried to intimidate me with the HOA instead. And when I finally decided to teach her a lesson, nobody got hurt, except her pride, which, frankly, needed the hit. He adjusted his headset like it helped him think. I understand your frustration, but Karen is a long-standing member of this community. She's a long-standing problem. I let that hang in the air. Gary glanced down at his clipboard like it might offer spiritual guidance. I'll bring this to the board. You do that. He turned to leave. I called after him. Hey, Gary. He paused. If I find glitter on my porch that didn't come from my bomb, I'm billing you for emotional distress. He left without another word. That night, I celebrated with ice cream and a rewatch of the glitter explosion footage on loop. It was art. It deserved an Oscar, or at least a Vine revival. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Karen had been humiliated. And Karen, like any self-righteous tyrant with access to a laminator and too much free time, was planning her revenge. The only question was how far she'd go. Spoiler, she went too far. You know that eerie calm before a storm? That uneasy quiet when birds stop chirping and the air feels like it's holding its breath? That was Tuesday morning on my street. No Karen sightings. No HOA letters. Not even a passive-aggressive, friendly reminder post on the neighborhood Facebook group. Nothing. And when Karen's quiet, that means she's plotting. By Wednesday, she'd struck. It started with my mailbox. Now, I don't know what kind of deranged adult deliberately superglues someone's mailbox shut, but I have a pretty good guess. I walked outside to check my mail and nearly ripped the skin off my fingers trying to open it. The slot was sealed tighter than Karen's Botoxed forehead. I looked across the street. Her blinds twitched. Subtle. I pried it open eventually, only to find a printed notice from the HOA inside, not delivered by USPS, mind you, warning me about aesthetic violations due to a foreign glitter substance that had contaminated community walkways. Contaminated. You'd think I dumped radioactive sludge, not biodegradable glitter. But Karen wasn't done. Oh no. The next day, a city inspector showed up. Apparently, someone had filed a complaint about an unlicensed home business operating in a residential zone. I had to explain to a guy in a safety vest, while wearing pajama pants and holding a coffee, that no, I wasn't running an illegal Etsy empire. I was just a freelancer with a messy desk. Someone said you had suspicious boxes being delivered, he said, glancing over my porch. Suspicious boxes? You mean Amazon Prime? He shrugged. You'd be surprised what people call in. Would I, though? Karen was clearly trying to build a case against me. She was smearing glitter and my reputation all over the place. I half expected a local news van to show up with the headline, Domestic Terrorist Targets HOA with Sparkle-Based Weaponry. But she made her biggest mistake on Friday. See, Friday was HOA meeting day, the emergency session she demanded after the incident. It was held in the community clubhouse, which looks like a retirement home lobby had a baby with a church basement, beige walls, aggressive lighting, and folding chairs arranged with cult-like precision. I arrived early, notes in hand, copies of my footage ready, and a personal folder labeled receipts. I don't come to petty wars unarmed. Karen was already there, seated at the front like she was about to deliver a TED Talk on community victimhood. She wore a pastel pink blazer and a pained expression that said, "I've been wronged," mixed with my upper lip can no longer move due to fillers. Gary stood awkwardly at the podium, clearing his throat into a mic that was already too loud. We're here today to address the ongoing conflict between two homeowners. Victim and assailant, Karen interrupted, dramatically placing a glittery Ziploc bag on the table. This was found in my hair 3 days after the attack. Someone in the back coughed. I think they were trying not to laugh. Karen continued. I was humiliated, endangered, and my property permanently defiled by an act of malicious sabotage. This is not just about me. It's about the safety of our entire community. I raised my hand. Gary looked at me like I was holding a live grenade. Jordan, please. Hi. Yes. Just to clarify, the so-called sabotage was in response to this woman stealing my packages for weeks. I have video footage. Multiple clips. Would you like to see her elegant porch piracy ballet? Because I have it in 1080p. Gary rubbed his temple like he regretted volunteering for this HOA presidency during a midlife crisis. I didn't steal anything. Karen snapped. I was safeguarding unclaimed boxes. Safeguarding? Ma'am, you carried off a keyboard like it was the Ark of the Covenant. The room chuckled. Karen's lips tightened into a shade of purple not found in nature. I reported you to the HOA, to the city, to Amazon. And yet here we are, discussing your glitter allergy. At this point, I handed Gary a flash drive labeled Karen, Greatest Hits. He plugged it in. The footage played. And for about 45 glorious seconds, the room was silent, watching Karen strut up, snatch my package, and then glitter detonation. Someone in the back actually clapped. Gary sighed like a man who just realized he wasn't getting paid for any of this. Karen, he said slowly, I think it's clear that while Jordan's methods were unconventional. Unconventional, she shrieked. He glitter bombed me. You were, in fact, removing packages that didn't belong to you. Boom. There it was. Validation, sweet and savory. I move, I said, standing up, that Karen be formally warned for theft, banned from unsolicited package handling, and required to reimburse me for at least 3 items. I also propose that any future complaints from her undergo a ridiculousness review period of no less than 72 hours. Laughter. Applause. Even Gary cracked a smile. Karen stormed out halfway through the vote, muttering about litigious options and spiritual violence. The board ruled in my favor. I got my packages reimbursed and a written apology, sort of. Gary's version of apology was more like, we acknowledge that a resident may have mistakenly misappropriated items not her own, but we commend your restraint in responding non-lethally. Good enough. But deep down, I knew this wasn't Karen's final move. She's like glitter herself, hard to get rid of and always clinging where she's least wanted. I had won the battle, but she was about to raise the stakes. You'd think after getting publicly humiliated at an HOA meeting, most people would lay low, maybe reflect, journal, seek counseling, maybe even learn the words, I'm sorry. But not Karen. No, Karen came back like a caffeinated boomerang, armed with an even more deranged sense of entitlement and, as I soon discovered, an actual clipboard labeled evidence dossier. And she wasn't just coming for me anymore. She was recruiting. Next thing I know, 2 of my other neighbors, Dave and Shannon, suddenly start acting weird. Dave, normally a mellow dad type who once hosted a barbecue themed entirely around nachos, begins giving me the cold shoulder. And Shannon, the queen of passive-aggressive lawn flamingos, posts on Facebook. Some people think glitter bombs are funny. Others think they're acts of suburban terrorism. And a conceived emoji. Oh, we're doing emojis now? Cute. It didn't take long to figure out what was going on. Karen had flipped them, turned this into a full-blown political campaign. She was building a glitter-fearing alliance, one porch at a time. So I did what any rational, petty, over-caffeinated person would do. I printed flyers. Free your porches. Say no to Karen's kleptocracy. Featuring a Photoshop picture of Karen with red eyes holding a package labeled stolen goods. Was it juvenile? Yes. Was it effective? Also yes. I posted them on light poles, community mailboxes, and, my personal favorite, slipped one under Karen's own doormat. Because if we're playing dirty, I'm bringing glitter to a knife fight. The neighborhood was now divided into 2 camps. Team Petty Justice, me, the retired Air Force guy 2 doors down, and a surprisingly vocal 8th grader named Max who'd had his fidget spinner confiscated by Karen last fall. Versus Team Karen's cult of clean lawns and misplaced morality. I thought things had hit peak absurdity until I received an anonymous envelope in my mailbox. No return address, no stamp, just one piece of paper inside. You've made a powerful enemy. Expect consequences. Written in Comic Sans, no less. I actually laughed out loud. Karen was sending hate mail in Comic Sans. This woman had layers. But my amusement turned to alarm when my internet suddenly cut out. I checked the router. Reset it. Nothing. Called the provider. Yeah, someone called in and reported your account as closed. Said the resident had moved out. Excuse me? They wouldn't confirm who placed the call, but I had my suspicions. Who else would impersonate me to sabotage my internet? The one thing keeping me from losing both income and sanity. Karen had gone from porch theft to digital identity fraud. Over a glitter bomb. War was back on. I spent 3 hours fixing my service. Then I got to work on my next move. This wasn't about packages anymore. Or glitter. This was about the principle. Karen had escalated this into HOA espionage, and I wasn't going to sit back while she tried to turn my life into an episode of Desperate House Fiends. I reached out to Max, the aforementioned 8th grader with surprisingly deep hacker energy, and asked for help. He showed up at my place with a backpack full of snacks and an attitude like he'd just joined the Avengers. "I've been waiting for this," he said, cracking his knuckles. Together, we created a digital dossier, timestamps, video clips, suspicious behavior, logs of every HOA violation Karen had ever filed. Turns out there were 72, including one for someone's gnome being too whimsical. We built a timeline that showed exactly how she had harassed, manipulated, and trespassed her way through the neighborhood. And then we launched Project Blowback. We designed a website, www.www.karenfiles.org, tagline, because sometimes the real villain lives 2 doors down. We posted everything. Redacted identifying info for decency. Included a community poll. Should Karen lose her HOA voting privileges? Yes/no/ is this even a question? It went viral. Locally, anyway. But still, over 300 clicks in 24 hours. The gossip train was fully fueled and careening downhill. And then, Karen came to my door. Not knocking. Not yelling. She just stood there, holding her clipboard like a weaponized Bible. Her lemon yellow tracksuit replaced with a severe black one, like she was going to a funeral. Possibly mine. I opened the door slowly. "Karen." "Jordan." Long pause. Even Princess was silent, sniffing the air like she smelled retribution. "I know what you did," she said. "Which part?" "The website. The flyers. The cyberbullying." I raised an eyebrow. "Cyberbullying? Karen, this isn't high school. It's basic accountability." Her eyes narrowed. "You're going to regret this." I smiled. "Only thing I regret is not using more glitter." She turned on her heel and walked away, muttering something about defamation and legal action. And for the first time, I realized she was scared. Because people were finally seeing her for what she was. Not a neighborhood guardian, not a moral compass, but a petty, controlling tyrant with a clipboard and an ego as fragile as her HOA violations binder. But she wasn't done yet. Karen never quits. She just doubles down. And her final move? Oh, it was spectacularly illegal. Karen's final move came at 3:12 a.m. Now, I'm not a light sleeper, but it's hard to ignore the sound of a metal trash can being dragged across your driveway, followed by what can only be described as the wheezing of a middle-aged woman who just scaled a 4-inch curb while carrying 2-gallon jugs of bleach. Yeah, bleach. I opened my bedroom window and peeked out through the blinds. There she was, dressed like a dollar store ninja, flashlight clamped between her teeth, pouring bleach onto my front lawn. Like she was performing some unholy ritual to summon the HOA gods. My grass. My actual lawn. It didn't hit me at first. I just stood there watching her, blinking in disbelief. Was she trying to kill my grass? The answer was yes. The woman had escalated from petty theft to full-blown botanical warfare. I guess when your ego is as fragile as a Faberge egg, green grass becomes a threat to your authority. I hit record on my phone. She moved methodically, like this was part of her weekly routine. A little splash by the mailbox. A full pour near my flower bed. She even stopped to rest, panting dramatically, then finished off her masterpiece by dragging a rake across the lawn like some chaotic signature. She left quietly, except for the part where she nearly tripped over her own dog leash and let out a hissed, "Damn it, princess," that echoed down the whole block. I stared at my screen, stunned. And then I smiled. Because now she was toast. See, Karen had finally handed me the golden ticket. All the HOA drama, the package theft, the glitter bomb, the campaign of pettiness, all of it had been annoying. But this was criminal property damage. With video. And I don't mean And maybe it's blurry video. I mean 4K, night vision enabled, Karen in the act video. You could count her forehead wrinkles frame by frame. I called the police. They took one look at the footage and said, well, that's not subtle. I gave them a full statement, timestamps, everything. Within 12 hours, Karen had an officer at her door and a clipboard in her face. Only this time, it wasn't hers. The charges were minor: trespassing, vandalism, and intentional destruction of residential landscaping. Yes, that's a thing, apparently. But it was enough. Enough for the HOA to launch a full disciplinary review. Enough for her to lose her volunteer enforcer status. Enough for her to be banned from filing official complaints for the next 18 months. And as a cherry on top, she was fined $800 to cover the cost of sod replacement and ornamental flower damage. I didn't even press for emotional distress. I didn't need to. Because Karen, the clipboard queen, porch pirate, bleach-wielding menace, had finally been dethroned. The best part? I hosted a lawn rebirth party. Max DJ'd. Gary showed up with a six-pack and his tail between his legs. Even Dave came by, offering a sheepish, sorry I believed her. She said you kicked a squirrel once. We installed a tiny gnome on the front lawn holding a glitter shaker. Subtle. Symbolic. A warning. Karen hasn't spoken to me since. She still walks Princess past my house, but now she does it with the cautious avoidance of someone who knows they messed with the wrong person. She doesn't make eye contact, and she sure as hell doesn't touch my packages. Speaking of which, I get them delivered daily now. Sometimes I just order envelopes for fun, leave them out for the nostalgia. Every now and then I'll catch a glimmer of glitter in my porch cracks. Remnants of the explosion. A sparkling reminder that petty justice? Sometimes it's the best kind. Thank you for being with us. Please share in the comments where you are watching from and whether you liked everything, and see you next time.